So in a nutshell, it all starts with April 24th, Tompkins Square Park. We have a show in the park, a free speech rally event, co-hosted with Black and Blue Productions. I've known this since 2017. They're really good guys. They're really big in the hardcore scene. Every year, at the end of each year, I have to apply for shows for the following year. One of the shows I applied for was September 11th for 2021. We're going to do a September 11th memorial. About 2 days after I applied for that date, the Parks Department notified me that we can't have that date, we're giving it to somebody else.
Right.
They were giving it to somebody else. So I tried to fight a little bit to keep the date. They refused. I said, what alternative date can you give me?
Right.
We'll give you April 24. So obviously we're not doing a September 11 memorial on April 24 anymore, so the focus of the show changed. It became a different show, a different event. So sometime in early March, I was approached by Joe from Black and Blue Productions about doing a hardcore show there in the park. And that hardcore show, historically, that I've done with him since 2017, has involved a nice big stage, a nice attendance, and always for a good cause.
I've been to a couple of them.
One was a benefit for Dr. No from
Right,
Bad Brains.
I was there.
He's older now. He has no insurance, health insurance, and he was ill, and he needed money for medical bills. They raised money for that. Jimmy G from Murphy's Law, he had some health issues, and he has no insurance, and he's older like the rest of us.
Right.
And he needs some help with paying his bills. And so they raised money for good causes, you know, with GoFundMe. This was going to raise money for the New York City Firefighters Burn Center, which is a really good cause. When I heard that, I was delighted. I thought that was a great idea. They did raise about $6,000 something for that burn center with GoFundMe contributions. So we did the show. Unfortunately, New York State Assemblyman Harvey Epstein, who up to that point I thought was a personal friend of mine, I was rooting and cheering when he got elected. I was like, wow, this is one of our guys in. We interviewed him in my newspaper, The Shadow. He was a National Lawyers Guild lawyer fighting on the streets literally at tenant demonstrations.
Right.
A real street fighter. I love the guy. He walks through the park on April 24th with his dog, and he's appalled, to use his words, at this super spreader event that this is his description, super spreader event.
Wow.
He tweets the mayor's office and he tweets the Parks Commissioner's office demanding that they do something to stop this, quote, super spreader event.
Right.
The mayor's office becomes embarrassed. They put some heat on the Parks Department. The Parks Commissioner is now embarrassed. So he puts heat on his staffers to do something about our shows. About a week later, about 3 days later, I get an email from the Parks Department. Not legal service, not a certified letter. The whole concept of due process has been violated. There's ways to properly serve people with either legal papers or legal notice. They didn't follow any of those protocols. They emailed me a PDF of a letter from the Parks Commissioner informing me that enumerating 4 or 5 really minor infractions and allegations, not actual infractions, but alleged infractions, that they were going to revoke all of my remaining permits for the rest of the year for 2021 and ban me for a period of 2 years from applying for additional permits.
Right.
An unduly harsh punishment, severe punishment, considering I have a 15-year track record of shows in Tompkins with not one negative incident. In fact, on April 24th, there was not one 311 call to complain about the show, and there's not one 911 call complaining about the show.
Right.
0 calls to complain about the show. Okay, granted, a larger than number of people attended the show than we expected. We didn't expect so many people to attend. They've exaggerated saying that it's 2,000 plus. It was more like 500 to 600 people. That's a lot though. I'm not denying that's a lot of people. They're claiming that one of the reasons to deny my permits is because I lied about the attendance of the show. When you fill out an application for a show, for an event in Tompkins Square Park, they want the number of attendees to be included. I wrote 100. It's a guess. I'm applying 6 months before the event. I didn't know we were having this event with this particular lineup until a month before the show.
Right.
How could I possibly know 6 months or more in advance how many people are going to attend the show?
Right.
It's a guess, not a lie.
Right.
They called it a misrepresentation. They said that another reason to cancel my permits, I allowed the consumption of alcohol in the park. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm now working for the State Liquor Authority and I'm in charge of confiscating bottles of liquor from people's hands? We all know, since we're New York City people, that people throughout the city drink and smoke in city parks in violation of those rules. Who's responsible for holding those people responsible? Who's responsible for enforcing those laws? Certainly not an event organizer. There were 4 cops present. They didn't write one alcohol ticket, they didn't confiscate any booze, and they didn't arrest anybody. If anyone's supposed to enforce alcohol laws, it's them, not us.
Right.
So that's another bogus claim, another bogus reason to deny our permits. Another reason they gave was we drove a vehicle onto park grounds and erected a stage. Now, every year we put a stage up, a little small stage. This year we had a bigger stage. We always get permission ahead of time from the park's manager or supervisor before the show. We tell her what's going on, we make sure she's okay with it, she gives us her approval, and we do it based on her approval. We don't step on anybody's feet, we do everything by the book, or we do everything right, out of respect. In 1992, the Parks Department destroyed the band shell in Tompkins Square Park, and they said that they would, in exchange for that, they would provide a mobile stage at no cost to us for every single event. With only maybe 2 exceptions, they reneged on that promise almost immediately. Since then, we've had to erect our own stage at our own expense, no more than 2 or so feet high. It doesn't require a permit because it's a small structure. It's not even a structure, it's a stage. If you build something really high, the building department actually requires a permit. But the stage we used on April 24th was a mobile stage, staffed by professional and insured stage builders. They work at large concert venues for a living. This is their professional occupation. Another reason for justifying the revocation of our permits was we didn't enforce COVID safety guidelines. Now, not only is a COVID safety guideline not law, it's a guideline, the police themselves in the park told me that they cannot and will not enforce mask wearing or social distancing. If the police aren't enforcing it, how and why are we required to enforce it? How am I going to make you wear a mask if you don't want to? How am I going to make you stay away from your friend if you don't want to be? Who's attending the show and who's in the park anyway, regardless of the show? Who is a park goer and who is a concert attendee? How am I supposed to know who is who? How do I enforce a law that's so vague, a guideline, not a law, a guideline that's so vague against people that may or may not be there for the show? These are all bogus reasons and all selective enforcement because there's nothing they've ever enforced on any other event organizer in Tompkins Square Park, only against us. So there was a few others, I can't remember off the top of my head. So we responded to all of that. We had an appeal period by which we could get them hopefully to reverse their decision. And it turns out they never had any intention of hearing our appeal or reversing their decision. They went through the motions of pretending to give us a time to appeal. They let 2.5 weeks go by where they wouldn't respond to us. Their lawyer kept telling us he was busy. We had 2 days left to appeal their decision. The day before the last day, their lawyer informs our lawyer that there's no way they're going to agree to rescind their revocations. At that point, we had no choice but to file suit in Southern District Court, seeking an emergency order to show cause, to get a temporary restraining order pending the outcome of a full hearing against the New York City Parks Department and New York City itself, and certain people in the Parks Department who caused our permits to be revoked, including the Commissioner of Parks and his attorney, Alessandro Olivieri, the Commissioner being William Castro. Now they're rightfully pissed at us, but guess what? They didn't have to let it get to that point. And in fact, let me rephrase that. They're not rightfully pissed at us. They're angry at us because of the lawsuit that they caused to become necessary by their failure to negotiate in good faith. That's really the bottom line in a nutshell.
Right.
Now, all they have to do is return the status quo, more appropriately give me a warning to never let that happen again, instead of the severe and harsh punishment they gave me for one event in the park, which was no more than 4 hours, completely scrubbed and cleaned after the event. So their reaction was they overreacted, and they've been basically just nitpicking and picking and choosing which event organizer they're going to enforce rules and regulations against, and selective enforcement. That's really what it comes down to. The show that we're going to today was going to be called Free Speech is Not Free. The reason for that event name is because we have an attorney. He has to pay thousands of dollars in court filing fees. Free speech is not free. We have to pay him for his time. Free speech is not free. It's going to take quite a long time before we have ultimate resolution. It's going to cost money for the entire period. Free speech is not free. So we have to sue the Parks Department also for $100,000 in damages, in addition to restoring the status quo, which was restoring my permits and removing the ban. I've done nothing wrong to justify such a severe punishment. Every single show has been clean, by the book, with prior notice to all officials involved, with getting the prior approval before we even attempted to do a show. They have no grounds by which to impose such a harsh penalty on us.
And I've been to shows where you to the detriment, getting harassed. You've been very cooperative with the local police. You've been very cooperative. I've seen people come and say, "Ah, man, get da 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 da," but you've been very cooperative.
Strangely enough, We have a great relationship with the 9th Precinct. And then this is the anarchists from the 80s and 90s riots telling you this. We have a really good relationship with them. It's a mutually respectful relationship, especially with the community affairs part of the 9th Precinct. They know us. They know our record. We cause no trouble. They like that. We like them because they respect us and we respect them. It's like no problems. We go there for our permit. They give us our permit. No hassle, no muss, no fuss. We like each other. I've known them for like 30 years, these guys.
Right.
In community affairs. It's a wonderful relationship. I want to keep that going. Up till now, I thought I had a decent relationship with the Parks Department because we've had 15 years since I've been involved of shows with no problems, no incidents, no negative occurrences. Suddenly, somebody decided at the Parks Department to go after us. I believe her name is Claudia Pepe, P-E-P-E. She works in the special events division of the Parks Department. She has hated us for many years. She's tried unsuccessfully several times to make us lose dates. I've had to get other attorneys to contact their attorney to let her know that you can't do that. And then she would have to pull back and give us our date. And I know she hates us for that. To add insult to injury, and we've been injured, but to add insult to injury and compounding the injury, the Parks Department not just satisfied with revoking our permits for 2021 and banning me for 2 years, they actually went out of their way to, in a deliberate and organized smear campaign, they gave a voided permit. Remember I told you early in this interview that we lost September 11?
Right.
And they gave us April 24? They gave the media the voided September 11 application. They told the media the only reason why we got April 24 is because we claimed that we were doing a September 11 memorial in April.
That was Channel 11? Was that
Channel 11 and The Gothamist. They gave it to them first,
Okay.
but they gave it to the New York Times and others shortly after. The New York Times had integrity not to run this phony story. They saw what it was. They saw that it was a voided application. The application they sent has Claudia Pepe's name on it. She puts her fingerprints and her DNA all over this crime scene. She's not very bright. Her name's all over as the sender of the application.
Yeah.
By sending out the voided application with my real personal contact information on it, they violated their own protocols, their own guidelines for privacy and confidentiality.
Right.
They're in big trouble for that alone. Forget about me suing them to get our dates back and for damages incurred. That's a whole nother suit for defamation. I'll say, to add insult to injury, the Parks Department gave, spread to several media sites the false narrative that the only reason why we had April 24 was because we lied on our application, to use their expression, that we were doing a September 11 memorial on April 24th. The fact is, the only reason we got the application, the permit for April 24 was because we applied for an application, a permit, and we paid $25. That's the only reason why we got the application. Not because we claimed it was a September 11 show. So they told the media this false narrative about 9/11 Memorial. They gave them a voided application for September 11, where the valid application said April 24. On the voided application, if you look at it very closely, they themselves crossed out 9/11 on the dates. They themselves wrote in 4/24/2021, but they gave this to the media as evidence of us applying for a September 11 memorial for April 24, when they knew that was a voided application. The Gothamist and WPIX, to obscure the truth that this is a voided application, created an excerpt where they obscured the application by putting a blue rectangle, which just had number of attendees 100.
Right.
Description of event, September 11 memorial, but no name, no organizer, no other details. It was a smear job orchestrated by the Parks Department and fed on by the media, including Gothamist and PIX, both of whom are subject to lawsuits for defamation as well. Then the sub-media sites, the ones that troll social media, Facebook, Twitter, blogs, websites, to create content for their sites so they can hopefully attract advertisers,
Right.
They fed on the story, and they quoted PIX and Gothamist.
Right.
So they compounded and spread the false narrative about 9/11 Memorial.
Okay, man.
The New York Times got one of those voided applications from Claudia Pepe, along with her false narrative, and they refused to go along with the story, knowing that it was clear that it was a false story. Even the New York Post didn't go with the story. Now you would imagine the New York Post would have jumped all over this.
Yeah.
They wouldn't touch it. You know the thing's rotten if the New York Post isn't touching it.
I know.
But
Yeah.
even they knew, whoa, we're gonna get in trouble with this. But the other media had no problem doing it. So again, just in a nutshell, they didn't just cause us harm by revoking our permits and putting a ban on me. They also created a phony 9/11 memorial smear campaign against us. As a result of the smear campaign, the New York City Firefighter Burn Center refused to accept the the money that we raised for them. They called it blood money.
Oh.
They figured because of what the Parks Department said, and they said this, we're exploiting the memory of firefighters that died on September 11, 2001. Totally untrue. I emailed the woman that Joe from Black and Blue Productions had been negotiating with, working with before we did the show, and explained to her everything that happened just as I explained it to you.
Right.
No response.
Yeah.
I said, look, we hope you'll accept the money, and we hope you'll understand what really happened, and we hope you understand you've been lied to by the Parks Department. She wouldn't touch it. She just wouldn't respond. Now, the horrible thing is, one of the members of Murphy's Law, which played on April 24th, is a firefighter. His fellow firefighters now are like on his ass. How dare you do a 9/11 memorial? And he's like trying to explain to them, no, it's a lie. We didn't do a 9/11 memorial on April 24th. So he's getting flack as a firefighter.
Right, right.
It's a really sick situation, and they created the situation. So they found bogus reasons to cancel future shows, and they created a false 9/11 narrative in order to smear us and defame us.
Yeah.
So they've actually compounded the damage by doing the second thing. So now our lawsuit not only seeks to return of all the shows that they revoked, all the event dates they revoked. Let me say that again. Our federal lawsuit not only seeks to rescind the revocations of our 2021 permits and remove the ban on me for applying for permits for the next 2 years, but it also seeks damages and also whatever the court deems proper for what they've done to us, removing our event permits as well as the smear campaign that was orchestrated by Claudia Pepe at the Parks Department. And that's where we are right now. So today, unfortunately, getting back to where we are today, their attorney and my attorney were, as late as last night, communicating with each other. The communication that my attorney got from their attorney, the Parks Department's attorney, was that they were going to restore today's permit for June 13. So I kind of waited till the last minute to tell bands that we weren't having a show, with the full expectation that we would get the permit based on the what do you want to call it, the false assurance of the Parks Department's attorney. Not the first time they've been lying or misleading us, and it's unfortunate that they can't negotiate in good faith in an honest way. And we indicated initially that we would be willing to pull the lawsuit if they restore the permits in the status quo. We also indicated that if the judge issues an order forcing them to give us the permits back, the lawsuit will stand. Well, based on their failure to keep their word about restoring today's permit for today's event in Tompkins Square Park, we have no choice but to continue the legal action that was initiated, and we're going all the way now. They've made the movie that's going to be, they've caused the movie to be made. And
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
Okay.